And we're live. Nick, how you doing?
I'm doing great, man. Thank you very much for having me, Caleb.
It's no problem. You are a tall person. I
You
saw
know how
you
many
at.
people I've told this to so many people, dude. Like whenever I meet my friends in real life, my Twitter homies, I've told them multiple times. Like I don't even know. I haven't measured my height in a long time, but I say that I'm about 6'3". So I
Yeah.
tell them that I'm tall. Like you guys are gonna, and like almost all of them still are meet me in person, and they're like, "Wow, you're taller than I thought you would be." I'm like, I tried to tell you, but you, yeah,
I saw you at the Tom Woods event, and I was just like,
yeah.
Jesus Christ! Like
Yeah, that was
I was in
great.
shock.
I didn't get a picture with you, unfortunately. I tried to get a picture with everybody that I met, but I didn't get one with
Yeah.
you. I did
Yeah.
take a picture of you because you were wearing the Hoppy.org shirt to
Yeah.
send to my Hoppy friends. So that was pretty cool.
Yeah, that was a weird event for me. I've never been day drunk before, and so that was I was like out of it like around like 2. I was like, I'm gone.
No,
But it
wow,
was
that's
a
fun.
lot of fun.
Okay.
Mm.
Yeah, we had a little bit of we had some drinks during the thing, but we drove there during the day. We went there that day and then left the next
Mm.
day. And it was like a 10-hour drive because we were in Georgia. So it's in
Mm.
Orlando. That was about a 10-hour drive for us,
Yeah.
which was rough, but it was what it was. It was worth it.
Yeah. No, driving in Florida is. I don't like it. It's too long. It's just straight nothing. Like, you can see a tree and you see like another tree, and it's like tired.
Yeah, and it's so whenever we're back in Louisiana now,
Mm.
where we're from, but whenever we lived in Georgia, we lived like way down south, like near the Florida border, about an hour away. But you would have to go down south to Florida and then take I-10 west, all the way through the top of Florida, and then
Mm-hmm.
through Mississippi, through Alabama, Mississippi, and then into Louisiana. And the worst part of that trip is going through that stretch in Florida because it's boring. There's nothing there. It would
Mm-hmm.
be like, in fairness, it probably would be like that for Mississippi or Alabama if you didn't have to go through just the small little juts that are part of the bottom of the state.
Yeah.
But yeah, and Florida is a lot longer than you think it is.
Yeah. I saw my friends about like I have a friend in Europe, and he's like, "Man, I got to drive like 45 minutes to go see my family member." And I'm like, "Dude, I drive like 45 minutes to the gym.
Yeah,
This
yeah.
is
I used to drive an hour to work. I don't mind. I
yeah,
like the drive. Last
yeah,
time I drove that distance, or actually, let me take that back. Last time I drove from Georgia to Louisiana, it was by myself. Um, so excuse me for a second. Go. I gotta shut my door. My wife hadn't gotten home yet, so whenever my dogs were in here, I didn't want to keep the door closed because they were gonna run out and
yeah.
get her when she got home. I'll be right back.
All good. Stratty, what up? Oh, my phone is blowing up. Hold on.
Two things holding.
Start a
What up,
podcast.
Stratty?
Both just start a podcast. Dip out immediately. That's how we do it.
That was. I mean, I didn't think it would be that perfectly timed. But
Nah,
what up, Stratty?
Stratty,
Um,
great dude.
yeah. So I was. What was I don't even remember what I was saying there. I was saying something about just
Driving
the
to
drive.
Florida or
Oh,
something.
that's right. Driving myself. I drove that 10-hour drive by myself from
Mhm.
Georgia to Louisiana to move back home because my wife was already back here and everything. So that was. It was actually a lot easier to do the drive alone. I don't know why.
Mm.
That's not
You
to
can
say
pick
about
one long podcast, and you can just leave it going.
10 hours. I don't know anything that went 10 hours.
Yeah,
That's
you
not.
gotta like find like the few Joe Rogan that's like 5, and just find one.
Most of it was I used to listen to shows or like audiobooks on big drives like that,
Mm.
but I find the time goes by quicker if I listen to music. I don't know why. Like
Mm.
it's just a weird thing.
All right. Yeah, thank you, Stratty. Yes. What up, Caleb? Love the show. You deserve a lot more credit than you're given. Thank you, Stratty.
You do get a lot of great guests, man.
Yeah, I don't know how I do that. I think I think it's the explain me like I'm 5 because they're like finally an easy one. It's nothing crazy.
I understand. Yeah, I was actually like earlier today because I know you had asked on Twitter what we should talk about, and one of the most popular answers was Taylor Shiring, who works with Hoppy.org, said y'all should
Yeah.
talk about economics because Nick doesn't get the chance to on other stuff. And I was like, yeah, that's a great idea. But then like earlier today, I was kind of getting nervous. Like, what if I've like forgotten things? I haven't spoken about economics in a long time. I haven't gone through the concepts in my head. So I was like in the mirror, like talking to myself, talking about the theory of capital and interest and stuff like that, just making sure I knew what I was saying before I came
You,
on here and made a fool of myself.
you're pulling the Bob Murphy when he was like hyping himself up for that fake fight with what's his name?
Yeah, with Krugman.
Yeah, Unleash the Beast or something. That is my
Yeah.
favorite videos on the internet.
Rest in peace, Krugman.
That's right. So I have a few questions myself, and I think we just go to the post and scroll through and go through the questions people ask there, and just kind of
Excellent.
go from there. So first things first, you are a host on my favorite podcast, Slup Gang.
Oh, thank you. That's very sweet of you.
That is, yeah,
It's
it's
a great
was
show.
it's great.
I love those guys dearly. They're good friends, and it's a great time. But I appreciate you saying that, man. It's fun, and I listen back to the episodes because like most of the time, especially if they go like it's like a 2-hour episode, then I've really forgotten what happened during the show. So I go back and listen, I'm laughing just at us cutting up and being dummies and stuff like that. It's really funny.
No, like the whole Jay quitting being Jewish always gets me. Like every time that comes up, I'm just dying. I actually got in trouble at work because I was listening to it at work, and the coworker complained. I forgot,
nice.
So that was a lot of fun.
I think that actually is serious. I don't know. I can never tell when people are being serious like that. So yeah. I don't.
I can't tell. I can't tell. Everyone I probably feel like I can't tell. I can't tell it's Jay. I have no way of knowing what he's ever serious about. Like it's great. Hold up, Strad wants to. Yeah, I'm actually with Strad in this one. He was right about people freaking out about Musk quoting monopoly on violence kind of saying, and it's like yes. I don't trust Musk at all.
Yeah, he's let me go pull up Stratty's Twitter because he just made an excellent tweet about this. I'm just going to read it real quick. So he says, I'm very disappointed that a lot of good people are falling for the deception of Elon Musk's words. He says a lot of great things, as did Alan Greenspan. Excellent point. However, the actions of both render their words meaningless. We need to support people who actually back up what they say. And then in a reply to that, he also says, we should not be trustful or supportive of people who have built their empires off of government subsidies, have made deals with the Pentagon, and are okay with forcing homeowners off the land they own. So I actually on Twitter recently, I called Elon Musk a welfare queen because he gets so much in subsidies, and people jump, some like dumb economically, no libertarians, I don't believe, actually got on me about this, but a couple of people that are populist or whatever, I don't know, kind of jumped on me for it. And I'm sitting here, bro, look at the numbers. The man gets subsidies. And Stratty's tweet sums it up very nicely. I do agree that like Elon Musk is a fascinating person, and his ventures are very fascinating. His products are very cool. I think Tesla, the cars are neat just because I'm not a tech guy, but I like technology from a dummy's perspective. Like, oh, that's cool, man, kind of deal. But also his flamethrower. He's just an eccentric character that's interesting to follow.
Yeah.
But it is really, he's a welfare queen. And he definitely would not have his stature as a businessman were it not for the state. So he can talk all this game about how the state is the monopoly on violence. Well, he's using that to his own advantage. Yeah. He's demonstrating his preference. He's demonstrating that he's okay with the state supporting him, or not the state supporting him. We can't really say that because the state isn't just this entity that exists. It's the government giving him tax money or whatever it may be, So yeah, Stratty is absolutely correct about that.
Yeah. Now, if he was to say quit all his connections to government and kind of like start over, I'd be like, okay, he's on our side. I can accept that. But until then, it seems like he's just trying to like play to a new base.
Yeah, there's no doubt in my mind that he's a genius. But I still think that take it. Don't simp for Elon Musk.
Elon is a post lib.
Yeah, a post.
Okay. Okay. I might simp for him now. Let's see. Yeah, no, what was it? It's Elon and like a few of these like big businessmen, people like I find it weird they were all so quick to jump on Bill Gates, Mark Zuckerberg, and then whip them all into one big group. But for some reason, all the libertarians get really like fanboy about Elon. I don't know why it is. I don't know why it is.
A lot of them do.
Annoying.
You want to know an actual like? I just kind of thought this a little bit. An actual reason that may be is because he is the autistic.
I was gonna say that
people see themselves in him because he's so awkward, and this isn't mean this not meant for an insult to anybody, him or the people who I'm talking about. It's not meant to be an insult. And again, Musk the man is a cool he's an interesting guy, but absolutely his business practices do show that his money isn't where his mouth is, right? And he makes a good point in the comments. He's still glad he said that for the normies. That's true, too. Kind of like whenever Jack had tweeted out Anatomy of the State. That's the PDF of it at the time. Yeah. That was more people were exposed to Anatomy of the State in one time probably than ever before.
Yeah, I was more happy he tweeted out a link to the Mises Institute. True that PDF more than I was happy about him tweeting out Lost Ball. Anytime the Institute can kind of get some people seeing it, that's a win. Because I think the Institute is more valuable than pretty much anything else in the libertarian space.
And another thing to consider is, like with Jack Musk, not every single decision that happens with his companies are all going to be straight completely on him. So there is something to consider there. But I do agree with, like, overall that his opinions are, it's good for him to be expressing these kind of opinions. But libertarians who should know better shouldn't just jump on the train and be like, oh yeah, Musk, like, come on. Be
that's my problem
with
it when he started celebrating Dorsey for tweeting out that link. It's like, I'm glad he did the link, but you shouldn't be celebrating Dorsey.
Right.
Like,
yeah.
This is not a good idea. Real quick, you used to be Catholic, I believe, right? I heard that on Jacob's podcast, Biblical Anarchy. You mentioned on the podcast you were kind of coming back to believing in God again. Are you going? Has it made any progress on that front? Or are you still kind of discerning and thinking about things? I'm
praying again. I'm reading some Bible verses. What really hit me, I'll give a small story. So the part of the reason I'm becoming back to believing in God, I was never an atheist where I was like, yeah, there's no God and none of that's real. And I always saw that there was value in the Bible, and whether you believe their stories or whether you believe they were completely taken at face value and they were completely 100% accurate, that happened, it doesn't matter. I think that there's value in those stories, whether they happened or not. And I always thought that. But I've made a lot of friends over the past year of me being on, Twitter, and we've become incredibly close, like family close. Like, they're very, very dear people to me. And I got to thinking about the path that I had been on in life in general and how I've kind of wound up here. And I'm looking at the people who are now in my life that I'm, incredibly grateful for and that I love a lot. And I'm just sitting here like, that can't be an accident, right? That wasn't just some coincidence that this happened. So there's that. Now, some people, take that for, if you don't believe if God's hand is in that, that's okay. I do. But then my uncle's former wife had passed away recently. This was in, I want to say September. It wasn't too long after I was on Jacob's show for the first time, I believe. Yeah, first time. And then we went to a service right down the road from my house. They were this was right around the time of the hurricane that had just hit. Oh crap, I can't remember the name. But it wiped out a lot of power in New Orleans. It wiped out power in places down south of where I live. And we went to the service, and the pastor read Acts 12, which is Peter's escape from the Roman prison. And basically he kind of connected that to, whenever you feel Jesus touch you. What happened was he was chained up, and the angel came to him in the Roman prison. He was sleeping the day before his execution. And he also pointed to that, like, how was he sleeping the day before his execution? He was clearly at peace because of his faith in God. An angel came down and like touched the chains that were on him, and they just fell off of him. And he said, whenever that happens to you, you're going to feel it. And I felt it during that mass or service. It wasn't a funeral because it wasn't like an actual funeral. It was just a memorial service where it was sort of a mass, sort of a memorial to her. But yeah, I felt it, and it was incredible. And then really, I made a tweet about this. I wonder how many people thought this was fake. But, oh, I'm sorry. Let me finish the first part. So Acts 12 is the escape from the prison that Peter had guided by the angel. And every time there was an obstacle, it would just open or clear out of the way. So, for example, there were 4 gates, and every time he approached one, it would open. And then none of the soldiers saw him. His chains fell right off. So all these obstacles that were holding him there, they went away. And like I said, he related that to real life. He said, whenever you feel there's an obstacle in your way and you just surrender, it'll go away, right? You'll get through it. And so I was at the mall in Baton Rouge a few weeks ago, and I tweeted about this. I don't know if people thought it was real. This was actually a real story. And there were 2 black gentlemen walking by me, and one of them pointed at me and said, "Jesus loves you, bro." And as I passed, it kind of took me aback. I was like, oh, that was kind of odd. But I turned around and said, "He loves you too, man." And as I turned around, the back of there was two of them. The one who told it to me didn't have this shirt on, but the guy that was with him had a shirt, and on the back of his shirt it said Acts 12. I was like, no way, dude. No way.
Yeah.
Like that's too, you know, that ain't a coincidence, right? That's got to be something there.
Yeah.
So, because Acts 12 really spoke to me, and for that one, for the guy, like, what possessed this dude to point at me and say Jesus loves you, and I look back and his friend is wearing Acts 12, like, that's incredible, you know?
Yeah. 2 months for a coincidence.
I think so.
Not to pry too deep, but this is a joke I had with Jacob when he mentioned I found out you were Catholic. It's like Jacob wanted to get you to be Protestant.
He wanted me to do what? I'm sorry.
Jacob's joke was that he's gonna get you to become Protestant instead of going
Protestant.
Back to and I was joking with him, saying, no, I got this. But if you were thinking about going back, have you decided if you're gonna just pick a random church nearby, or you kind of go back to where you were raised this Swiss?
I don't really know. I probably would be some non-denominational thing.
Yeah.
But I haven't really thought about that a whole lot.
Yeah. That's fair. That was just a question I was wondering, because a lot of people who are born and raised Catholic, and then they kind of fall away, and when they come back and they have like a religious experience or something like this happens, they go to the nearest church, and I'm just happy someone's going back to church. But I was curious about the where it's going to end up, you know.
Mm-hmm.
So, okay, next question. I actually forgot about the podcast because I had a test. I had a big test I had to take today, so I completely forgot about the podcast.
Oh, that's
like I walked out the test, and I was like, I have a podcast tonight. Yeah. You seem to be close to a lot of Hoppians on Twitter.
Mm-hmm.
Mac, Jared, what's your view of what's your view about a Hoppian people on Twitter? Because they seem to they seem to rub some people the wrong way, and they immediately block them.
They're good friends. Jared's a great dude. Mac is a great girl. And other guys and who are in that circle, like Taylor, he's a great friend. And other folks that are in there. So the thing about it, did you have like a specific question about them? Like what is?
Yeah, there seems to be a lot of people who don't like them.
Yeah,
you know? They seem to have the wrong way because I don't know what it is. Maybe why do you think they rub so many people the wrong way? Because they don't rub me the wrong way. I love them all. You know, so
me too. Same to me. Like, because they're not afraid to voice their true opinion on things. They're not afraid of lolberts or whatever. And this is not to say that everybody that disagrees with them are lolberts, and they know that. But that I mean, I rub people the wrong way, and everybody rubs people the wrong way in some capacity. It's just how it is. But you know, I will say too, I haven't read enough Hoppa to say I am a Hoppian. That's the thing about me.
Yeah. But
I have been told by those people that they think I'm a Hoppian. And I pretty much agree with them on a lot of things. Some stuff occasionally will have a disagreement here or there, but they do think that I am basically a Hoppian who hasn't read Hoppa yet. So I take that for what you will. But they are good. They're great folks. Love Jared, love Mac, love Taylor, and everybody else that I'm not naming. The reason I'm not naming y'all is because I don't know if y'all are anonymous like in these circles or not. So
yeah, that is one of the weird things. A lot of I think that's mainly what it is for some people. They don't like anonymous accounts, and a lot of Hoppians want anonymous for various reasons, like Jared. And I know there are people who like really just do not like that. I don't get why personally. But I just it bugs me. Like I'll quote tweet somebody, and someone will comment like, "I can't see the tweet." I'm like, "Well, I'm sorry, he probably blocked you." Like I'm trying explaining this, but he blocks a lot of people.
Well, part of the reason they block people, and I can't speak for them, I don't want to put words in anybody's mouth, but I know a part of the reason that particularly Mac and Jared block a lot of people is because they've been kicked off of Twitter. They don't want to get mass reported by a bunch of pricks who don't like them. Yeah. You know, and that's a good defense against it. That's the way to go if you want to stay on Twitter for a lot of for people that are in these circles, you know.
Yeah. And that's actually one thing I want to talk about, like staying on Twitter, having fun on Twitter. There seems to be two kinds of people thinking. I saw a tweet today, literally on top it was, if you don't want to get your account banned, don't say things that would get you banned. And beneath it was, make 5 accounts, always come back, and don't stop. And I see both those points of staying on Twitter and being involved and having your friend group and stuff. I also see, like, if you get banned, coming right back and not being kicked out and not being forced out. So, like, what are you saying? What is the way to go?
I was actually talking about this the other day because there's been a purge. I don't know if it was purges of suspicious potentially fake accounts or what. But I lost, at one point I had lost 100 followers, but then 70 of them came back up. These are round numbers. They're not completely, accurate, but about 70 of them came back. Most of it was they needed to re-verify their phone number, re-verify their email, whatever, verify their account somehow. But then another wave happened and I lost another 20 or so. So I went from 4,900 to 4,800, back to 4,870, back down to 4,850, whatever. So whenever that was starting to happen, there were some of my mutuals who I know are legit accounts. They're not like fake accounts or anything, but I was like, all right, well, if I get banned, like, I don't know how hard they're cracking down. I don't know if they're really figuring out who's ban evading or what. So I just said, if that happens to me, what I'm going to do is I'm going to come back with a private account just to stay in touch with my friends. Cause I haven't been nearly as active on the timeline as I had been before. And my follower growth is really stagnated, which is, I don't really care about that, but Twitter is also, they got rid of that shadow ban. The shadow ban tester website, they just shut themselves down, or they got shut down. I don't know which. They said that they were no longer interested in doing it, but we don't know what the hell happened there, behind the scenes.
Yeah.
So that last I checked, I was shadow banned I was like reply deboosted and search suggestion banned, which is not a big deal. I don't really care. My followers, I'm surprised I got 4,800 followers, let alone 300 or however many, I thought I would get at the time. So I don't really care about the following, in as much as, other than that could be more good work I could be doing with charity organizations and stuff like that. Right.
Yeah.
But it is what it is. I would come back with a private account to stay in touch with friends that I made here, genuine friends.
Yeah, that's pretty much what I was going to do as well. If I get banned, it's come back private. Just find a few people I hung out with, and that's why I said our podcast episode is through Twitter, and so I don't want to get off of Twitter for good because I no way making new podcasts.
Right.
So, okay. The charity streams. I'm loving the charity streams. Watching you play games is hilarious because especially the horror ones. Those were.
Oh man, that's really entertaining. It's fun. They're fun games, but God, dude, Outlast.
I don't know how you do it. Yeah, I can't do horror games. I have a VR headset, and I've tried VR horror. I just in the middle of the game whip that thing off and threw it to the ground. I'm not doing this.
That would be interesting for me to try VR horror. That would be extra scary because they're right there.
Yeah. It's crazy, man. I was playing a VR game and I got so into it that I was an event and I had to stick my head through the vent to see beneath it. And I literally slammed my head into the floor. I forgot I was on my hands and knees, and I forgot I was in VR, and I literally pushed my face into the floor like this is reality.
Yeah, I love those. Reorganize. There's video clips of people that are playing a game and they jump in real life and they fall on their face, or they just fall over because the balance in the game is weird, and those are always funny. I'm maybe in the future VR is something I'll do because it's maybe just for the fact that it's more entertaining. But the streams are because I want to do some charity stuff and get some money towards some organizations. So
how do you go about finding the right charity? Because I know there's a lot of charities that basically just tax write-offs.
Yeah, so the way that I found the one that I did in October for breast cancer was, first off, I tweeted out, I said, are there any, because the pink ribbon people aren't the best charity. A lot of their money goes right back into themselves and marketing themselves and the CEO pay and stuff like that. So you want you can go to this website. It's called Charity Navigator. Let me see where it's at. charitynavigator.org. And they rate charities. They show you breakdowns of their spending. They show you how transparent they are about their spending. And if a charity is on there and they have a bad rating, then it's not a good one. And like the best example of this is what I said on Twitter was, hey, I know I'm not going to say the name of it to make sure nobody gets in trouble, but the pink ribbon folks are not the best breast cancer charity. What's a good one that I can use? I can get some money donated to. And I was suggested one by a mutual of mine, and she said they're actually good and they actually helped out her mother-in-law. And so I looked into them and I found them on Charity Navigator. I also looked into some other things about them on various just articles and things like that. And then that's it. There are so many different causes that it is hard to pick just one. So October was obvious because breast cancer awareness. It was the first, or because it's breast cancer awareness month. That was the first thing. It was the jumping off point for me doing this stuff, and it was the easiest, most obvious thing to do, right? Because it's right there. It's October. November was Epilepsy Awareness Month, and I have a few people in my life who are epileptic, so that's why I did that. December, as of right now, our boy Neo Connor Mover, his wife had an accident at the shooting range, and they are raising money. It's my pinned tweet on my profile, so that's what
Before I forget, I wanted to put that in the description.
Yeah, they have a GoFundMe to raise some money to help them pay for medical bills and physical therapy. So that's the pinned tweet on my profile. Until that GoFundMe is taken down or withdrawn or whatever the term is, then I will leave that as my pinned tweet, and anything that I get will go toward, anybody that wants to donate anything to whatever I'm doing, donate to that. For right now. But so it is, whenever you have something that's so close to you like that, that's an easy choice, obviously, because Neo Connor is a friend, and people on Twitter love the guy, and he's a great dude, and it sucks that this happened. So it's right there.
No, he is the best. Like he had just followed me before he went off of Twitter because of the whole fiasco, and I saw he got kicked, and I'm like, I finally get the follow, and he leaves.
He deactivates occasionally, but this one was a serious issue. Yeah.
Once the moment I found out, I was like, shit, that's terrible. It's really prayers for Neo Connor and his wife, and donate to the stream. Okay, last one before we kind of go. Last question before we go to Twitter, and then we get serious with economics and stuff. Star Wars games. I see the Star Wars cert. I see Knights of the Old Republic. Favorite Star Wars game?
Knights of the Republic 2.
Okay. Have you played anything newer, anything recent?
I've played The Force Unleashed. I played through that. I played the new Battlefront games 1 and 2. I also played the original Battlefront and Battlefront 2, which are great. Excellent games.
Battlefront 2 the old one was just shit.
Oh, it's great. I love it.
Game.
Man, I'm trying to think now. I don't remember. I played the Star Wars MMO, the Star Wars The Old Republic. By the time I got to where I had a good enough internet connection to play games online, Star Wars Galaxies was already gone. I hear that was an incredibly amazing, superior RPG or MMORPG, especially compared to just The Old Republic, which came out in like 2013 or something. But I had a good time playing that. But Knights of the Old Republic 2 is my favorite that I have played of the ones.
I played that on an old laptop that could barely work, and I was playing it on a road trip, and I was on the final boss area with that hooded sick, and it died. And I hadn't saved it, and I was so pissed. It broke my day. My entire day was ruined. But it's a great game. The remake of it, I'm interested in seeing, because it's not like they're revamping the graphics, they're actually making a new game. They said with the same storyline, so I'm interested to see it, but I don't think it's gonna be as good.
Fallen Order is not an RPG, Trey. It's only an RPG in that you get to pick a couple of force powers and change your
it's a fun game.
Lightsaber color in your outfit. I'm sure it's fun. I'm not gonna get. I don't even know if it's on PC or not. But if it is, maybe I'll get it when it's on sale for $10 or something to play it.
I will say that Fallen Order is my favorite Star Wars game. It is, in my opinion, it had the best story Star Wars told outside of Mandalorian. It's pretty good.
Star Wars Uncharted more than Star Wars. It's not really an RPG other than you pick a couple of small details about your character. So, but I'm a sucker for that. Knights of the Old Republic 2 style RPG game 1 and 2. I kind of consider them the same thing. Yeah. They're 2 is a continuation of 1 in my mind, right?
Yeah. Okay, and then let me just save the screen here from Twitter, because the people had a bunch of questions on the Twitter thing, and so I want to make sure I go through those. Okay, gumbo and how to cook crawfish. Chris, how to cook gumbo. Nick, how to cook gumbo.
I've never made gumbo. My wife makes a great gumbo. I
just noticed that. Yeah,
you think it's trippy. I will say this, because I am from Louisiana, born and raised in Cajun country. I'm not Cajun, despite what my wife will tell you. I'm not Cajun. Cajun is more than just where you are. It's an ancestral thing. The two main kinds of gumbos that people make is seafood gumbo. So they'll put shrimp and crawfish and stuff in that, or a little bit of crab meat in the gumbo. And the other is chicken and sausage, which is obviously sausage and pieces of chicken, mostly bone-in pieces of chicken thighs or legs or whatever. She says I'm lying in the chat. I'm not. I'm telling y'all. Anyway, I'm not the biggest fan of crawfish. Boiled crawfish is good, but it's not my favorite seafood. I will say, as far as seafood goes, I like oysters, shrimp, and crabs way more than crawfish. Like a stuffed crab is my favorite. It's delicious. What's wrong?
Call Mango to know what is wrong with this car. Listen, if you need oil change, just put new oil in it. That's all you gotta do.
It's European, probably, Carl.
Yeah, let's see. Libertarian ideas and themes in metal music.
That's a very appropriate question for me.
How do I stop this? There we go.
Because I was kind of a libertarian before I discovered them, but backwards, Eric July's band is what really drove me to libertarianism. Yeah. I heard their song Self-Ownership, and they're a metal band. I don't like to. They have people call them new metal, rapcore, metalcore. They're just. I don't know what genre they are. They incorporate a lot of different elements. But I love Backwards. It's a great band, and if it weren't for Eric July and his work, then I probably wouldn't be here with you on this show right now. So that's a cool thing. Very, very relevant to me, especially because I am also a guitar player. But also, I know I'm not the biggest Rush fan. I used to love them a lot whenever I was a kid in like 6th and 7th grade. I know and I wasn't old enough to understand it then. Or if I was old enough to understand it, then I hadn't been exposed to the ideas, so I didn't know. But I know that they have a lot of libertarian ideas and themes in their music. Other than that, there are some bands who have some what appear to be, libertarian ideas in their songs. I can't, of course, now that I'm on the spot, I can't think of anything off the top of my head, but I do remember hearing some songs. Rush's Randian. Yeah, I thought so. I do remember hearing some songs and hearing the message and being like, oh, that's actually kind of solid. But then again, the thing about that is sometimes with music and with art, you never know what the person intended it to mean, right? So it could be that I'm picking out because like it's confirmation bias for me because I already think this way. Therefore, I'm projecting and saying, oh, they're clearly saying what I already believe. So you never know.
Yeah. But, there we go. So I'm gonna close it out. That's the wrong one. I don't do the CS screen often, and so I'm trying to.
You don't have to share. I think it'll be okay if we just.
Yeah.
If you just
I don't think I'm gonna CS screen.
Yeah.
Okay. Why do white people have tails?
I'm guessing that Andy asked that question.
Ben.
Okay. I don't know why. I'm not white, so I can't answer that question.
Yeah, I have to ask my parents about that one. I want to investigate. Sam wants to know if he should put Ultra 93 or regular gas in my Power Stroke.
Depends on how old it is. It depends on if it has direct injection or regular traditional injection. And for those that don't know what I'm talking about, engines used to be made where the gas would come through the intake valve outside of the cylinder, right? So if this is the top of the cylinder and the piston is in here, the valves are on top of this cylinder head right here. And the intake valve would open up and let the gas and the air in, and then the piston will compress it, and then the spark plug, which is inside the cylinder, will ignite and then blow back the pit. That's what drives the engine, drives the car. So that's regular traditional injection. With direct injection, the injector is inside of the cylinder. So the gas is not passing over that intake valve. So the detergent in the gasoline is not cleaning that intake valve as it comes off. For various reasons, there will be carbon buildup on that intake valve, and it's way worse in direct injection engines. So it's more important to use higher octane, higher quality gas. If you can get it, it's more expensive, but if you can get it, I go to Texaco and fill up because they use ethanol-free gas, and I usually get the 93 octane. The reason is because I drive a 2019 Hyundai. Hyundai is already known for having bad engines, so I want to be as clean as I can with that thing, but it's also direct injection. So I want to make sure that carbon buildup ain't good because that'll take away from your gas mileage by a lot.
Sam, now you know what to do. Carl wants to know about Playboy Cardi.
Playboy Cardi?
Playboy Cardi.
I don't know. No, I've heard a Playboy Cardi song for the first time recently while I was driving with Cotton in my car, and he put on. I don't know nothing about that dude, man. Sorry.
Yeah. Sorry, Cotton. He doesn't know anything about Playboy Cardi. A lot of music ones. Okay, EDM.
Sure.
Anything about any opinions of EDM and dubstep and that kind of stuff?
No, not really. I'm mostly into metal. I like some older rap. I like the occasional country song, the occasional guilty pleasure like pop song, but as far as EDM or dubstep, it's not really my thing.
Okay, I think. Why are you in Epstein's book?
Oh, there's actually a guy in Epstein's book named Nick Ashley. There is. That's true. It's Nick and Ari, A-R-I, Ashley, and it says they're in London. And there's Ashley is an English surname, so it's not surprising that there's an Ashley from England in there. But I don't know who this other Nick Ashley is.
That is a very clever cover story, Nick. I appreciate the clever. I appreciate the work, man. Can't let him get you down.
I can't open that closet on camera. It would incriminate me.
They want you to take a DNA test to prove you're not a ward baby.
To prove I'm not a who said that, Jay?
Autism powers.
Oh, okay, that's my boy. Yeah. Okay, yeah. I don't know if I'll ever do one of those, but if I do, I'll definitely be letting y'all know what I get.
Nice. Okay, and Sonic the Hedgehog erotic fan fiction has related to copyright law and the First Amendment.
Well, IP is not property.
Yeah. Look, all I want to do is I want to get Jeremiah and Stefan Cancelo on the same podcast to talk about Sonic the Hedgehog.
Goodness gracious. That would be so hard to listen to. But
that would be so great.
Do they have an actual question, or do they want me to like? What do they want?
I don't know. I'm just reading the tweets.
Okay.
Okay, it's fine. A serious one. Here we go. Pure time preference theory of interest versus fractional reserve banking.
Versus fractional reserve banking, or
hold on, fractional versus full reserve banking. I read that quickly.
Okay, yeah. So pure time preference theory. I've watched a Bob Murphy lecture about that, and he doesn't think that it's completely. He thinks that there's a few things wrong with it. I'm not exactly familiar with the pure time preference theory of interest, but I can talk about fractional reserve banking versus full reserve banking, and the reason is fractional reserve. If you're listening to this, you know what that means. That just means that the bank can hold more deposits than they have reserves in gold or reserves in actual money in their vaults. So that means some of them are. I don't even know what the number is now. I don't even think that they are. I don't even know what, maybe like 3% or something like that. Essentially what this means is if you've got $10,000 in the bank, or if the town has 10 million, this would make more sense. If you have a local bank in town and the people in that town, the 500 people in that town have a total of $10 million in that bank, they don't have to have $10 million in their vaults. They could have, I don't know, 3 million or something. I don't know what the reserve requirement is right now. What that means is they're committing fraud, because if every single person goes to that bank to withdraw their money, not everybody can get their money. They're basically creating fake money that way. It's fraud, which is why I believe that it is it's wrong, because fraud is theft pretty much. Or fraud isn't theft necessarily, but fraud is roundabout, can be theft.
Yeah. Isn't fractional reserve banking the whole like the sticking point of what's that movie, Wonderful Life? There's no money in the bank.
It's a Wonderful Life, yeah, because that happened. The movie is set around the time of the Great Depression, wasn't it? And
I think so.
Yeah, there were people that were doing a bank run. They called them a panic back then, because people would panic and go try to get their money out of the bank, and people would say, "We don't have your money, because we have more deposits than we are allowed to, than we have reserves for." Which is, I mean, that's the kind of thing that'll happen.
Yeah, I don't know why that's a. I mean, as long as we have government and laws, I don't think that's to be a law. But of course, a lot of things we have to be laws. So, okay, good serious one. That's what we got. Okay, so Bach. I can't say his name. Bach. Yeah, that one. So he was after Mango before Mises. Am I correct? He was the reporter.
Reporter? I don't know about that.
I thought it was an economic reporter. Maybe I'm thinking of somebody else.
Well, Bumbovic had the theory of capital and interest, and he also kind of took down Marx's exploitation theory and like labor theory of value with his theory of capital and interest, or his theory of interest. I'm Mac.
Mac.
And I was thinking through this earlier today, and so he basically wrote about why people aren't being exploited just because their employer is being able to make a profit. And he wrote why his theory of interest explains why you can buy, because if you, how do I word this? If you, in the evenly rotating economy, it should not be possible theoretically for you to have $10,000 worth of product, $10,000 worth of resources, whether it be labor, land, capital, all that stuff, and then make a product and sell it for $11,000. That doesn't make sense. Like but he kind of connected those dots, and what he said was, well, yeah, you're not thinking about time. Present goods are more desirable than future goods. So whenever you buy that $10,000 worth of supplies to make the product, essentially what you're doing is buying that product from the future. So you're buying it for $10,000 from the future, and you're selling it in the present. After you make it and sell it, it is now that future. You're selling it for the future price, or for the present price, but it's just later down that road, right? So Bob Murphy has a great lecture on this, capital and interest. And whenever I had to listen to it 3 times before I finally got it. And whenever I did, it was like, whoa, that really like fixed so much for me. It really connected so much that was missing for me. And if that doesn't make sense, let me try to elaborate a little bit. So the analogy that Dr. Murphy uses is a house. So if the building cost of a house is $100,000, how are you able to sell it for $110,000 once it's finished building? So let's say you buy all the lumber, all the brick, all the everything, the labor, everything that it needs to make this house. That is essentially, let's say it takes 2 months to build this house. You're basically buying a house 2 months from the future. And the house 2 months from now is worth less than the house in the present, because people value presence over future, typically speaking. So whenever you buy that $100,000 worth of stuff, that house 2 months from now is $100,000. But whenever you buy it and build it, it's currently the present. So you're able to sell it for that $110,000 price mark.
Yeah, I'm realizing how much I don't know about economics right now. I have 2 copies of Human Action that I've been trying to read for the past 6 months, and I just cannot. I can't catch I don't know where I can't like catch the wisdom with that book just to actually sit down and read it.
The best resource, well, for me, I listen to some audiobooks because I would work on, being a mechanic, working on cars and stuff, with listening to it while I'm working, but also listening to lectures from people who were way smarter than me that are able to break it down in those kind of terms, right?
Yeah.
And also, that also does explain, by the way, why workers are not being exploited. Basically, so that $10,000 profit on that house that we just talked about, that $100,000 it costs to build versus the $110,000 that you built. That's the interest that the builder is collecting on this house, and so the worker is not being exploited just because the person's able to make a profit on it, because it's a time preference thing. So the worker is taking the money now, and then the builder who is going to make the profit on the house is waiting for the future to make the profit. So the $10,000 is just interest on those supplies and everything that he's making. Basically, because he had the forethought and the patience and the time preference to wait it out and make a profit later on. That's what he's getting the money for, not because he's exploiting the workers.
Nice. Yeah, I think you have it comes to like watching lectures. That's how I've learned anything with economics. Like the Mises Institute lectures are always a go-to. I have a few audiobooks, but I don't know, when you start talking about too many terms that are like part of economics, my brain just kind of zones out, and it's like I got to come back to this.
Dude, that was my problem whenever I listened to America's Great Depression by Rothbard. because for a while that was one of the first ones I had gotten. I don't remember if it was one of the books I was able to get for free with my Audible subscription or whatever it was, but it was tough to listen to the first time. And about halfway through it, I was like, dude, I'm not understanding any of this stuff. And then eventually, after listening to more lectures from guys like Dr. Jonathan Newman, Dr. Murphy, and even Tom Woods talks about some economics occasionally at the Mises Institute. After listening to more and more about those things, more basic concepts, I was able to go back and understand and grasp what actually Rothbard was talking about in his book, The America's Great Depression.
Yeah. I used that book my first English class. They gave you a paper you had to write, any topic you want. And so I decided to write about how FDR ruined everything with the New Deal. And I cited the Mises Institute, Tom Woods, and that book. And he said, you copy and paste too much for your paper. It's his, what's the word? Plagiarism. And he highlighted the copy and paste, and he highlighted all the sites.
Okay.
I was like, that's what you're supposed to do. So I had a battle that teacher a lot on things because he was crazy. Let's see. Okay, we got one on Uncle Ted. Uncle Ted's rap name was Bomb Berserk. Okay.
Yeah, I saw that. Yeah, that was a reply to that question about, or the tweet about Bombavik.
Okay, so I think the only one I have left is from Grant, which says transubstantiation versus consubstantiation. He assumes I know what that is.
Okay, I'll tell you. So transubstantiation is the Catholic idea that whenever the priest or whenever Jesus said, "This is my body with the bread, this is my blood with the wine," that it literally became the body and the blood of Christ.
Yeah, I looked it up today.
Yeah, that's transubstantiation. Yeah. Consubstantiation, which I hadn't heard of before that he asked that question. So he explained it to me. It's the same thing, but it's more that the bread and the wine represent his body and blood, not that they literally become his body and blood. Yeah. And I don't have anything to I don't know.
I have a lot I could say about that, but that's not for this podcast. So
I don't know what to think of either one of them. I mean, I was Catholic as a kid and went and was confirmed in the church and everything. But I am not well versed in theology enough to say which one I believe is the correct answer.
Yeah, for anyone listening, if you want to learn more about transubstantiation, Matt Frass has great videos on it. It was the view of the early church and most of the church until 12. I can't remember what Reformation was, but most people agreed upon it. All the church fathers agreed upon it. The idea of it being not what's the word? The idea of it being not transubstantiated, but instead of being just consciated, Sarah, the host, is all from Luther, I think, and it was probably done in bad faith because Luther did everything in bad faith. Sorry, Mac. She's Luther, and I don't want to upset her too much, but so that was pretty much all the questions from Twitter. Let's talk some more economics because I want to ask you more economic question.
Sure.
So why is economics valuable? Why should I give a shit?
Well, economics is valuable because for one, in today's day and age, if you learn economics, particularly learn Austrian economics, the Chicago School has some valuable stuff, but when it comes to monetary policy, they're not that good a lot of the time. There's a great video on Austrian versus monetarism that Dr. Jonathan Newman has done. It's on Mises' YouTube page, Mises Media, and he explains why they get wrong what caused the Great Depression, and they get wrong things about monetary policy is kind of what caused the Great Depression. The poor, the Fed doing what they did during the 1920s, but the monetarists or the Chicagoans or Friedman people, and they say the Fed didn't do enough. The Austrians say the Fed did too much during the 1920s. Yeah. So that's a big divergence between the Austrian and the Chicago School. But overall, the Chicago School is generally free market. But Austrian school, I think they get everything right. Everything that they have makes sense. Economics is important because it's in today's day and age, you'll know why things are happening. You'll know what's going on with inflation. It's very obvious that whenever you print more money, that the value of the dollar is going to drop.
Well, hold on, sir. I heard that was only because businessmen are greedy and are raising their prices. I heard that from a professional economist professor.
Oh my God. I hate it.
He instructed me.
Dude, sometimes I wish I hadn't learned so much about economics just because I have to see the stupid takes on Twitter.
Yeah.
Like how inflation is actually good. And let me tell you something too. Inflation if you're using the Austrian definition of inflation, which I tend to do, the Austrian definition of inflation is the increase in the money supply. People tend to use inflation as a term that means the increase in the price of consumer goods. Well, they're kind of getting it backwards. They're working the wrong way. So inflation is the expansion of the money supply. It is the printing of more fiat currency. That is what causes the dollar to lose its value, which is what in turn causes prices to be higher. So inflation is not the prices being higher. Inflation is what causes the prices to be higher, because inflation causes the money to lose its value. So it does bug me whenever people are saying, yeah, we have X% inflation. It's reflected in these consumer prices. Inflation is X on milk and Y on bread. I'm like, that's not what that means. Please use the word properly. But what are you going to do?
Just autistically type in the comment section.
Yeah, well, I try not to argue no more, man. It's too time consuming.
We all can't be Ace. He's probably. I think Ace is. I was in a debate and I had to go for the podcast. I said I got to go Ace. You want him? I just passed it off to that guy. That guy's great.
He's a machine.
Like I know a little bit. Like, for example, I'm currently trying to read Theory of Money and Credit. I don't know why, but like when it comes to the money stuff, when it comes to like what money is, I can get it. When it comes to anything past that, I kind of get lost. And I was explaining it to someone, a friend of mine, and she just went, "But the money store has a 5 on it, Caleb."
Yeah. And the thing about it is, it's not, once you realize, and I think What Has Government Done to Our Money by Rothbard is a great starting point for anybody.
I just did a podcast on it 2 years ago, everybody. So go check that one out.
Yeah. Once you understand that every economic theory, like everything that applies to goods also applies to money, because money is nothing more than a good. That's the intermediate. It's just an intermediary between you and you exchanging with other people. That's all it is. It's a medium of exchange, but it's still a good. So marginal utility applies to money. Supply and demand applies to money. The more money there is, the less its value is going to be, all other things being equal. Everything that applies to bread at the grocery store or a car or a refrigerator, any economic thing that applies to those goods will also apply to money. And obviously, the more of something there is, that lessens its value, other things being equal, right? And then vice versa, and so on and so forth. So whenever you start to look at money through that lens, it is just a good. Just because the government controls the production of it, or the government controls the supply of it, that doesn't change the fact that economics still applies to money as if it was any other good, which is important for people to grasp. That's important. If you're going to learn things about money and monetary policy, that's something that's like step one right there, Yeah.
It's one of the weird things I noticed about economics. Is like there are some really smart people who are like really smart philosophically, theologically, all those other ways. But economics comes up and does say things like, I thought money had to be like determined on government printing and deciding and making it a forced currency. And it's like, you realize, like, I understand the bare minimum of economics. And it's like, no, that's not true. And I can explain why. You're way smarter than me. You should know this. Like, it's crazy how perverted economics has become in today's world.
Yeah, and a lot of that is to do with John Maynard Keynes. And I spoke about this. He was a pedophile and possibly quite even a Satanist. But
no,
what up, Cotton? Cotton told me to let him call in. I'm not going to do that, buddy. Sorry, can't do it this time. We're having big brain discussion. We're not going to be talking about making deals with whatever it was we talked about last time.
Look, if Kot's making deals, he's making deals. So I got to make deals.
But crud, I forgot what I was going to say there. I was talking about
Keynes, Satanism, pedophilia.
Yeah. Take that out of context, why don't we? So if you look at, and Dr. Jonathan, I spoke about this with him on my own show back, months ago. But part of the reason economics is not that complicated as a concept. It's really not. Supply and demand is simple to understand. Marginal utility is simple. It's easy to understand for the average person. And from these very simple things, from these very simple concepts, you can extrapolate and know anything that you need to know once you're familiar with those things and you have a good grip on them you can know pretty much anything you need to know about economics. You can kind of extrapolate from those very basic concepts. So intuitively, an average person should be able to understand it. But what has happened is, if you look at economics classes, if you look at the mainstream economic literature, it's all really complicated math. It's all really crazy functions, and you'll see like Greek letters like sigma. It's all this crazy utility functions and crazy shit that really, it's just people trying to make sense of things that they're overcomplicating, and it's not that complex. And I'll tell you, like, I was thinking about this earlier today. You can understand a lot of times the Austrians will bring things down to what Mises is referred to as the autistic economy, or what we'll hear. What autistic is, has a sort of different connotation today than it did whenever he wrote about it in Human Action, but that just refers to the Robinson Crusoe economy. If you got a guy who's on an island, right? It's very easy to understand concepts about capital accumulation, why capital accumulation and saving resources leads to economic growth if you break it down to one guy on an island. And I'll give you an example of what I'm talking about here. So let's say you've got this guy. Let's say I'm on an island with fish swimming around it, right? I've got a couple of trees. I've got trees with vines on them. I've got some rocks. There's one big stone and a bunch of small rocks around it. There's a tree with branches within reach, right? And they have vines growing on them. They're really strong and have good tensile strength. So let's say if you gave me 15 minutes and said, Nick, go catch a fish right now. Probably the easiest way I'm going to be able to catch a fish within 15 minutes is to try to go in there and grab one with my hands. Well, if you gave me an hour to prepare and say, okay, Nick, you got an hour to prepare. After that hour, you'll have 15 minutes to catch a fish. Maybe I'll go grab a branch off of that tree and break it off and peel all the leaves off of it and break all the small twigs off it. So I have a nice, just basic stick, and I'll grab a rock and break the rock off on the big stone that I said was sitting there, and then maybe sharpen up that stick, and now I have a spear. That spear is capital. So then within 15 minutes, I might not be able to catch a single fish with my bare hands, but I can probably catch at least one with that spear. So that's why capital accumulation is important. So then this is why saving is important. So if I'm able to say, get that spear and catch enough fish that I can have for the next 3 days. Within that 3 days, I don't have to dedicate that time to go and get fish anymore. I've got all the supplies I need for the next 3 days. So what can I do with that time? I can fashion another tool. I can grab another stick. I can grab another stone and fashion up an axe. Maybe chop down a tree. Maybe I can take that tree and make a dugout canoe. And then I can go out in the water where there's even more fish and catch even more with my spear. So that's, and then I could, ad infinitum. The more I have, the more I'm able to accumulate. The more I'm able to get resources, and so on and so forth. That's just how it works. So that explains why capital accumulation is important. You could see the growth in my production just based on the fact that I was able to save these resources and put that off for later. And I can also, you can take that and understand why the labor theory of value is garbage and why subjective value theory is the correct thing. Because if you took me and I had this spear and canoe, and instead of being on an island with water, if you just teleported me, the marginal utility of the Jedi Council, if I had my spear and canoe and you teleported me to a forest where my main source of nutrition would be picking berries off of bushes, picking mushrooms off the ground, well, then that spear is now useless. It didn't matter if I took 2 hours to make that spear. It didn't matter if it took 10 minutes to make that spear. It is useless there. It's useful on the island. So subjective value. So if I were to try to give that spear to somebody and say, I'll trade you 10 berries for this spear, he's going to be like, what the hell am I going to do with this spear? It's worthless here. I'm picking berries just like you. I'm using my bare hands. I don't need this spear. So there you go. Subjective value theory. It's very simple when you break it down to things like in that way. And that also, that gets sort of labor theory of value. That tells you why subjective value theory is right. It also tells you why capital accumulation is important. And, so once you have these basic building blocks, you can kind of extrapolate, and then you have, there's no such thing as macroeconomics. That's garbage.
Yeah.
How individuals shopping at the grocery store, they're not worried about utility functions, these Keynesian textbooks. They're saying, what's the best way I could spend my money to get the most value out of the products I'm buying, and so on and so forth. It has nothing to do with no crazy complicated math like you'll see in textbooks that are in college. Look like every gay couple in Arkansas. Why Arkansas?
That's it. Okay. No, I'm about to get you on. I'm about to get you on one of the book club episodes for the economics book one of these days.
Sure, that'd be cool.
Put my one of those and do a straight book club on it. Okay, so we've gone for an hour. I have no more real questions on economics or anything. I do want. I think I do one more. What was the first book you read that was, or like, what was the first book you picked up? Like, I'm gonna read economics. Have you have any books you picked up and read, or y'all just do lectures and just
Economics.
videos? Yeah. What was the first?
The first book, "What Has Government Done to Our Money," was the first book that I read. I didn't read it. I listened to it on audiobook 2 or 3 times, so I count it as read, right? But that would be that would have been the first one. But most of it has been, like I said, getting lectures on Mises' YouTube page, and learning about those, the boom bust cycle, learning about all these things. Like everything I just said, I learned that from thanks to Mises.org.
Yeah. No, like I said, everyone listening, the Mises Institute has some incredible lectures. For me, I went to I got Tom Wood's Liberty classroom, and I went to the history of economics, and that's how I kind of learned anything I know about it from there. But the Mises Institute is the place to go. There's so much on. Everybody listening, there's so much on there. You all know this. This is. I think I plugged in every podcast because I have a lot of friends who are Catholic who don't know anything about libertarianism. Who sometimes watch, and I'm like, hey guys, Mises Institute, Tom Woods is there. Caleb, okay, we got people trying to do a tower. We're gonna dip.
I think they're just putting ends in the chat for Nick Ashley, but that's yeah. If it's time,
it's gonna escalate. He's hold on. For some reason I got I missed it.
Home economics, because Nick is a women. I'm a women.
Women. Okay, well, this has been a lot of fun. Nick, where can people find you at?
And find me on Twitter at Nick_individual. That's if anything I do will be on there. And that's where I'm interacting with most of the people. DMs are open. So even if I don't follow you, you can contact me if you want me to. Anybody listening. I'm always open to talk to anybody. So if you just want to chat, just DM me, say what's up. Don't matter to me. I like people.
I don't like people, so don't do that to me. But well, it's been a lot of fun. Guys, go follow Nick. Read more books. Have a good night.